Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Freedom, Flexibility, and Finances. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Peter Weller. Peter, this is a follow-up to our last conversation about having a heart-centered business, and we touched on some important issues that I think need to be explored more for how do we actually find a heart-centered message. So what are you present to? Like, where do you want to start?
Well, you know, one of the things is, how do I tell when my brain is talking to me? How do I tell when my heart's talking to me?
Yes.
And I mean, the conversations that I've been having over the last month, people are just freaking stuck, and they're generally stuck in their head, and they know that they need to listen to their heart. And you have the conversation, and they hear both voices, yet they don't know which one to follow.
Yes.
They don't know which one's coming from where.
Preach, Pete. Preach. It's
Preach,
good, man.
right?
It's good.
So one of the things over the course of the next 12 months that I want to do is I want to make sure that people get to know me exactly for who I am.
Yeah.
So let's dive deep into this conversation in a very short period of time, because I don't do surface conversations real well. So
yeah.
I'm going to, for those people that are analytical brains, we got to tell them what they're doing before they do. So if you're an emotional being, hang tight, we'll get there. Fair?
Nice.
So electricity has to travel from point A to point B, and it has to complete a circuit to be able to light a light bulb, to be able to run a motor.
Okay.
So I believe that our bodies are created of energy. And if we understand that we're created of energy, if we want to complete a circuit or a loop on something, we can actually ask different parts of our body. And today we're talking about our heart and our mind by completing a loop, what it feels or what it thinks.
Yeah.
So our temples are our closest part to our brain. And a lot of times when we talk to our brain, you'll notice that people, when they think, they want to actually touch their temple because they need to figure it out. What we're doing here is we actually complete the energy cycle to our brain, so we're focused up here.
Cool.
If we want to talk to our heart, we can actually press our hand right over the top of our heart. Sometimes it takes two, and we can ask different questions. Now, what's really interesting about this is we've walked several people through this exercise over 33 years, is that when you put your hand on your heart, you can actually feel all of the different relationships that you carry with all of the different people over the course of your life. Now, it sounds a little wonky, and I'm going a little woohoo. We live close to Boulder, Colorado, and it's okay in my world to do this.
Yeah, me too.
So what I want you to do is, when you put your hand on your heart, I want you to notice that there's all sorts of relationships that are going on there. And for lack of better words, we simply grab all those relationships that we're protectful over because we care about them, because they're near our heart. We set them down on the table so we can keep an eye on them, so they're safe. And what we want to do is, so we've taken off, you know, our kids, we've taken off our spouse, we've taken off our parents, and all of our relationships that we've had. And now when we feel our heart, we should really feel ourselves. Now, most men, when we talk about this conversation, we're like, you're going to make me cry. And I'm like, well, most people cry when they get close to their emotions, so get used to it. Most women go, this is the first time I've actually focused on myself in a long time. So those are the two most common reactions that I'm getting during this exercise. So when you feel that you are totally alone, you can ask your heart, how am I doing at life right now? And you'll get an answer. And you can say, heart, what's the purpose of my life? You'll get an answer. Now, what's interesting is if you get two different answers, your brain's trying to tell your heart what to do.
Listen, you can feel that, right? Like if you ask the question, you can feel where the answer's coming from, can't you? Like if you're self-aware enough, you can actually feel your brain churning versus your chest.
Yeah,
answer.
So if you've spent some time in this, you can actually feel the difference without completing the circuit. And you know the answer to it. Yet if you've got that mismatch of things that are going on in life and you can't separate, this is an exercise to separate it.
I see.
So if you hear two voices, you can touch your temples and say, brain, what's your answer on this subject? And it will tell you, and you go, cool. When I'm talking to the heart, I need you to shut up. I mean, seriously. And then sometimes we have to ask who's in charge. There's times where we allow our brains to be in charge. And then there's times where we need to allow our heart to be in charge. So for example, you and I are sitting here in a deep conversation. If your phone rang, you looked down, you saw it was your wife or your kid calling, you would say, Pete, we got to stop. This is important. Because we've been programmed that they know my calendar. They know that I'm in the studio, we're recording. And if something's calling and interrupting right now, there's an emergency.
Right.
Our brain knows that everybody knows our standards around this, and the call's going to be much different. So we can answer the phone and say, what's going on, you know? And they'll go, oh, I just needed a moment of your time. And you go, cool, I'll call you back.
Yeah.
Or most of the time it's, hey, I need you here, here, and here. How fast can you be here?
I think what's so profound about this conversation so far, I mean, we're only a couple minutes into it, but I think one of the things that I've learned, I'm 42, you're 44, that I've learned this far now into life is in the self-awareness game is how to feel the difference between my head and my heart. And it doesn't mean I every day I'm living 100% in the space of my heart. It's one of the things now that I'm aware of it, you know, that whole like conscious incompetence. I'm now aware of like, oh dude, like this doesn't feel good. And I'm trying to get back to my heart because I know what that feels like. But I think a lot of people are somewhat unconscious about the voices that are speaking to them or inspiring their action. And until you get clear on, or until you can start to experience and feel what your head says versus what your heart says, it's hard to find that heart-centered business.
Well, and here's the fun part is your brain, your mind is actually designed to protect your heart. It sets standards and it sets processes so you don't get hurt again.
That's good.
So a lot of times when we get in that confusion point and we don't know where it needs to go, that's where we just need to calm. And when I say calm, what's our neutral? Can we get our emotions to neutral? Can we get our heart to neutral? So we can just check in with ourselves. Can we put all of our relationships and all of our responsibilities, hit the pause button, check in with ourselves and see what we need to do. Now, the more that you exercise this muscle, the faster you can do it. So I tell people, take 10 minutes in the morning. Start with 5 or 10 minutes. Just check in with yourself. And after a while, you find that you really like checking in with yourself. Because, you know, most people are really, really divinely intelligent. And there's also a divine intelligence with checking in with yourself.
Right.
Which if you want to up your level of thinking, wouldn't you like to check into your subconscious that actually sees everything that's going on? And it's your reticular cells.
And if you're uncomfortable in that conversation, and you're uncomfortable checking in with yourself, and I would say that's probably your brain trying to protect you from going into a place that where your heart has to open up, right? When you're asking those kinds of questions. And in order for your heart to open up, there's some vulnerability in that. And if your brain's trying to protect that, then
what sort of guards do we have that our brains put in place to protect our heart? One of mine is sarcasm. Like, oh, be careful with that type of stuff. You might hurt my feeling. Right? I'm a very complex, deep guy, and I've got a lot of things going on. I've got more than one feeling. Yet my brain, that's a way to protect it, of saying, hey, I think you're saying something that's going to cause me to have some sensitivity or heart issues. I need you to make sure, I need to make sure that you're ready to prepare this information so you don't hurt me.
One of the places I go, my brain goes is to planning. So when I was younger in my 20s, very heart-centered, open. I just surrendered to life, and just life took me wherever it wanted. And it was exciting and I loved it. And then I got hurt. And then I got very logical and strategic about things. It was how I produced results. It was how I navigated life, how I made decisions. And so I will go to strategy, planning, logistics, because it numbs my heart from having to feel intuitively what's the next decision, what's the next path I should choose. When I don't need to know that. I can just look at my plan, but then it takes me down a road that feels empty because my heart's not in it.
Correct. So a lot of times we have to check in with our heart to be able to create the plan. Because if we create a plan, we are, as individuals, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we can execute any plan that's in front of us. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, here's where we're going, let's all go. when our heart's in it, we can execute the plan faster, quicker, and we don't do any damage along the way.
Right.
Damage in people, damage in vendors, damage in relationships, damage to our checkbook.
Mm-hmm.
We can really discover what that net life is,
Mm-hmm.
which is that freedom and the flexibility.
Yeah.
And look, the closer you get to your heart-centered business, or your why, your purpose, what are you designed to do?
Yeah.
The easier life becomes. So this is just a simple tool that I found out. I thought everybody knew this, Chris.
Which tool?
The being able to check in with your heart and be able to check in with your brain.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then the conversations that I'm having with people that I look up to and respect,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of other coaches, they're like, this is a new tool and this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So what is business coaching? Business coaching is helping you figure out what your heart is, where it needs to go, and how to get there as quickly as possible, because it's more about your net life than it is about the business.
I'm so excited for the raising of awareness. There's a leveling up of consciousness in business where people are feeling this. And I think it's you talk about divine intelligence. I think there is a thing happening in the hearts of people where we've gone down the road of information enough in the information age, and we're coming back to like information is hollow without the heart, and we're starting to feel that, I think, as a people. And so this is a conversation that's percolating more and more, and I'm really excited that you're having this conversation with the world, because it's important for us to feel full and fulfilled in our work.
Yeah. Well, and if people are struggling with finding their heart,
mm-hmm.
the tools, the strategies, we can have one conversation, you can get closer to your heart.
Right.
Over the course of 12 months, you get really close to your heart. And, there's also other points in business is if you hit the wall, everybody knows what the wall feels like. And the wall is where something's got to give. Either I need to make more money so I can hire somebody new,
mm-hmm.
or I need to back off a little bit so I get some more time. Yet the end result is we want some more time and flexibility.
Mm.
So if they're at either one of those points, Chris, that's where you need to look at hiring a business coach.
Yeah.
And, there's the qualifications of a business coach are many. And a lot of times the first person you interview is not the person you should hire.
Mm.
You should actually take some time.
Mm-hmm.
So I run with a league of coaches. And if my skill set is not going to get you where you need to go on a conversation or with coaching, I'm going to introduce you to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an unwritten law with coaches that most people don't know, and I call it a law. Look, if I know that I've just had a discovery call with somebody that's not a good fit for me,
mm-hmm.
it's my responsibility to help them find the right coach.
Mm-hmm.
And
cool.
Maybe that's a Weller's rule or a Weller's law, yet what I know is I interviewed somebody yesterday. They're not a good fit for me. I mean, where they're at and where they need to go, they're a good fit for a different client.
Yeah.
So we put them in touch with that other client or that other coach. They're having their discovery call this morning. And I just got an email right before we jumped on this that he hired him as a coach, and thank you for the referral.
Nice.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And
I think, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. And if I wasn't in touch with my heart and I was just completely logical, logical mind would have taken on that client and I wouldn't have done him any help.
Right. And I think from the client perspective, like, you can use the same tool that you shared. Like, when you're thinking about hiring a coach, put your hands on your head and put your hand on your heart and feel, or in this case, just put it on your heart, but feel for, is this the right coach? Well,
and there's two things. Sometimes we need to hire a logical coach, which we need to check in with our brain and say, does this guy have the cojones to get me where I need to go? Am I looking for a heart-centered coach? What if you get two different answers on it? You could actually check in with your board of directors, your divine intelligence, or other people that you know, like, and trust, and say, hey, I'm struggling with this decision. Help me out. And look, I'm always here to help people in that point when they're trying to make a heavy decision.
Yeah.
Let me be a third-party, non-partisan type of voice in your world.
Yeah, it's good.
And that's why I open up my calendar for those conversations.
I love it. And if people want to have that conversation with you, Pete, where can they go?
www.kindalikepete.com. Schedule a 30 or 60-minute call, and let's have a great conversation.
I love it. It's good, man. I'm excited to see where we continue to go in these conversations. But here's what I know. In order to get to freedom, flexibility, and finances, I definitely think that the heart has to be part of that journey. I don't think you can just get there on the brain alone. Or if you do, you're going to look back with regret because you're going to realize you left your heart behind.
Absolutely agreed, Chris.
Thanks, Pete. It's another great episode. Catch you next time.
Absolutely.